What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're doing well. First of all, today's election day. I don't give a flying, what about, politics. And, there's obviously no politics talked on this show. This is as political as I will ever get on any program that I ever do as the host, the co-host, I guess, whatever sports show I do. Obviously, I do a bunch of them. Obviously, this is my main gig. Go vote, please, okay? Please go vote. Go vote. Go vote. Go vote. But on to the show. First of all, I just want to extend my well wishes to Greg Popovich, obviously Spurs head coach. He's dealing with a health problem right now. Not sure what it is, but he's not going to coach on the road trip. He didn't coach last game. Their assistant coach, Mitch Johnson, will be the interim head coach for now. But Greg Popovich, for their upcoming road trip, will not coach as he needs to get better. So I'm sending my well wishes to Greg Popovich. All right, let's talk some MLB free agency stuff. So the Braves make a couple of moves on options. Well, the first one wasn't actually them making it, was a player option. Marcell Ozuna opts into his deal. He will earn $16 million, or the Braves rather exercise his deal. So that was the Braves doing that. Ozuna had a really good deal this past year. 302, 39 home runs, 104 RBIs. He's one of the best designated hitters in the league. Obviously has a lot of personal problems, but when his head's screwed on straight, he is a great player and one of the better impact bats in the league. So they bring him back, and they also declined the option on Travis d'Arnaud, their veteran catcher. He is now a free agent. They declined his option. d'Arnaud didn't have his best year, 238, 15 homers, 48 RBIs. Ever since he left the match, the guy's turned into a really good offensive-minded catcher. But his numbers were down for the most part this year. Obviously, Sean Murphy's there, so obviously he didn't play as much. I mean, last year in 2023, or I guess 2 years ago at this point, 2 seasons ago, Sean Murphy had such a great year, so he didn't play nearly as much. Played a little more this year with Sean Murphy taking a step back, but didn't have a phenomenal year. So Atlanta decided to decline his option. I'm sure they're trying to create as much payroll as they can, but they obviously got to try and re-sign Max Fried, their starting pitcher. So they decided to let him go, so he is now a free agent. Garrett Cole re-signed on the same deal that he opted out of, 4 years, $145 million. The whole thing was the Yankees can void the opt-out if they add an extra year. They have 5 years, $180 million left. But he opted into the same deal. Who knows? Maybe Cashman was like, we would love to add the extra year, but I'm not sure if he'll be able to pay well on Soto. And Cole said, you know what? DL, I'll re-sign on the same deal. Who knows? It was very odd that he even opted out, but he will remain a Yankee. 4 years, $144 million, what's left on his contract. The qualifying offers were released in baseball. Usually, every player declines this because usually it's the top free agents who get them. It's a 1-year deal. It's worth just over $21 million. If I'm a big-time free agent, I'm going to obviously want some more security, so I'm going to want more of a longer-term deal. And a lot of these guys just think they can get more than $21 million. It was first implemented in 2012, 12 years ago. Of the 131 players that have received one, only 13 have ever accepted it. So, obviously, a very low percentage. These were the players who got one. Juan Soto, of course, from the Yankees, Corbin Burns, Alex Bregman, Willie Adames, Max Fried, Pete Alonso, Anthony Santander, Nick Martinez with the Reds, Teoscar Hernandez, Christian Walker, Nick Pivetta, Sean Manaea, and Luis Severino. The only guys I could maybe see doing it, maybe Nick Martinez. He's a reliever for the Reds, and then Nick Pivetta, the Red Sox starting pitcher. Those two might take it. No one else, I don't see a shot in hell. Obviously, Juan Soto is going to get a huge contract, probably north of $500 million, probably 10-plus years. Corbin Burns is going to get a huge deal. Whenever top starting pitcher is available, they always get 5, 6, 7 years, 150, 170, $200-plus million. That's what happens. I mean, now Alex Bregman's getting older, but I would think he would get more than $21 million a year on the open market. Of the 3 Mets, Sean Manaea, who opted out, he's not going to accept that. He opted out of 13.5. $21 million. That's not too much more than he'll probably get in the open market, but he can definitely get probably a 4 or 5 year deal. Sevy, little closer there, but he had definitely a decent year. He had a resurgent year after a really bad last few years with the Yankees. I still think he'll probably want a 3 or 4 year deal. Again, $21 million is a nice number for him, but he can probably get about that on a longer deal. And Pete Alonso, there's no way. Didn't have his best year this year overall. and he turned down 7 for 158. But he's still gonna be able to get a 4 or 5 year deal at least, for possibly even more than $21 million a year. So he's probably looking at something like 6 years, possibly $25 million a year. So he won't accept that, and then the other guys, Santander's hit 44 home runs. He's going to get paid. Max Fried's one of the best left-hand stars in the league. He's going to get paid. Louis Downs had a huge year. He's going to get paid. Christian Walker should be able to get 2 or 3 year deal at least for about that salary, if not more. So I doubt any of those guys will take it. Maybe Nick Pivetta with the Red Sox or Nick Martinez with the Cincinnati Reds. All right, so I have a bit of a funny story. Funny, sort of not funny, kind of crazy story to tell. It was an article that The Athletic put out. So, the San Diego Padres have had an agreement with an international free agent. But he goes by the name of Cesar Altagracia, I believe from the Dominican. Yeah, he's from the Dominican Republic. They had a deal. For verbally that would go into fruition in January of 2027. For $4 million. The international market and MLB works. It's a little bit confusing. A lot of the times you sign these guys, they're 14, 15, 16 years old. So a lot of times you don't sign a guy, you'll sign a guy for like 2027, 3 years from now. You think, all right, at that point he'll be 17, 18 years old. You think, all right, now he's in your system. You give him 3 years in the minor leagues. Now he's 21 years old. Now he's ready for the major leagues. Obviously, you see how that works there. But they withdrew the offer because it was found that he falsified documents, and he was 5 years older than he actually was. The documents, the legal documentation that he had said he was 14 years old. You think, oh, 14 years old, how's that guy do signing 14? This does happen quite often in MLB, going back about 15 years or so. The Mets were re-signing Wilmer Flores when he was like 16 years old. It's why like the whole like him crying on the field incident. He was like, because they signed him when he was 16 years old. Now fast forward, he's 23, 24. He's finally made it as a big leaguer. Was having a good year. The Mets were in a pennant race. In the middle of the summertime. And all of a sudden, his manager comes over and says, hey, you got to come out of the game. You're going to be going to, Milwaukee, Wisconsin to play for the Milwaukee Brewers. As we all know how all that turned out. That was back in 2015, 9 years ago at this point. But, people always made fun of him for crying. Well, the whole reason was because, he was legitimately sad that, the Mets were all he had known. He was 16 years old when he was, 10th or 11th grade, middle of high school. And now he's 23, 24. It's been, a starting player for them for a few years. Been with them, for his entire adult life. So that isn't super uncommon. But the dude isn't 14. He's 19 years old. He is 19 years old. He represented the DR in the U12 Baseball World Cup in 2022. And then the U15 Pan American Championship this past summer. Like, am I the only one that sees a problem with that? 2022, so that's 2 years ago. That would make him, 17 years old? Who's playing 12U at 17? And this past summer, he's supposed to be playing 15U when he was, 18 or 19 years old? What? How does that raise any eyebrows? When he's playing 12U in 2022, obviously this is 2 years ago, right? But he's 17 years old. So this dude's probably throwing, mid to high 80s at least. I mean, if he's good enough to, be in the major leagues, you sign a major league deal that takes place in a couple of years. You think, I got a lot, in the Baseball World Cup, this isn't your normal, random ass travel baseball league, with, some dude's out of shape 50-year-old dad who's an accountant, volunteering to coach. This is the real deal. These are the kid. These are the top 12-year-old baseball players in the world that maybe getting contracts for Major League Baseball teams within the next couple of years before they even finish high school. But you never thought these kids were 12 and get this kid who's 17. You think he looks really big for a 12-year-old. I get this is the best for this age group, but he's pushing 90 miles an hour on his fastball. Or maybe he's a hitter. Let me see if he's a hitter. He's hitting the ball 400 feet. He's a shortstop. So, the dude is hitting the ball like 430 feet at 12 years old. No one thought we should look into this guy. That is just bizarre. I thought it was absolutely bizarre. First, the Elephant International can't even sign with major league organizations until they are 16. So, there's a lot of corruption in this stuff, but that was just a holy wow version of international free agent stuff. That was crazy. Usually MLB suspends players, by the way, when they do falsify their age, and then before they're even allowed to apply for reinstatement. So we'll see what happens with this dude, but that was a crazy story that came out of the works the other day. All right, let's talk some football. We have a few trades to get to and stuff like that. Obviously, the trade deadline is today. But let's talk Monday Night Football. Last night was a great game. The Kansas City Chiefs get the win in overtime over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They win 30-24 in overtime. Baker Mayfield with a late touchdown pass with only 27 seconds left in the game to Ryan Miller. I've never even heard of. It was like their third string tight end or something. That gives the Chiefs the win. They improve to 8-0 on the season, as they are the only undefeated team in the NFL. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers drop to 4-5. Okay, at the end of that game, Todd Bowles, you gotta go for two. You gotta go for two. Obviously, you got lucky that they got to stop. Chiefs got the ball. It was 2nd and 1. I like the thrown 40. They remember they also had 3 timeouts. They had about 22 seconds left, and then 2nd and 1. Was incomplete pass in 3rd and 1. A miscommunication between Mahomes and Hopkins, and then Antoine Winfield read the route really well, so they got very lucky. Because going into that, there was 2 things that were going to happen, most likely. It was looking like, 27 seconds, all 3 timeouts, the Chiefs were either going to, they're going to try and go and get a field goal. They were either going to get that field goal, or they would either run out of time, or maybe Bucker misses the kick, and you go to overtime. Yes, if you go for 2. If you don't get it, now you're down 1 and you lose. And if you do get it, you'd only be up by 1 because the field goal still wins the game. But also, that puts a lot of pressure on them. If the game is tied, there's really not that much pressure. They're the Chiefs. They go to overtime. They would if they get the ball first. Oh, game over. Let's go down and score a touchdown. Even if they don't, they have a pretty good defense. The Bucs' entire receiving core is out. I think they trust their defense to get 1 stop, and all they got to do is get a field goal. The game is over. You gotta go for 2. You go up 1 now, puts the pressure on the Chiefs that they have to get a field goal. Yes, you probably would have still lost anyway, but it's Todd Bowles saying the wet field's the reason why you didn't? What? You're 2 yards away, Todd! You're 2 yards out. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I don't get it. I don't get that decision. Todd Bowles is just an overrated coach. He was terrible with the Jets. He's not been good with the Bucs. He's just in a horrible division. Absolutely freaking awful. I just don't get it. That's just freaking embarrassing. But Chiefs win 30-24. DeAndre Hopkins had a big game in his second game of the Chiefs. Kind of took the handcuffs off. No more snap limits for him. Kareem Hunt up the middle from a couple of yards out with the game-winning rushing touchdown for the Chiefs in overtime. They are 8-0. Bucs drop to 4-5. Now let's talk about just kind of a roundup with a couple injuries, and then a bunch of trades. Dak Prescott hurt his hamstring in this past week's game in the loss to the Atlanta Falcons. It is worse than initially suspected. He's going to miss a few weeks with that injury. Jerry Jones said he's probably going to go on the injury reserve, which will mean he'll miss at least the next 4 weeks. It's a tough loss for the Cowboys. Look, Dak's extremely overrated. Hasn't had a great year this year, completing 64% of his passes for a little over 1,900 yards, just almost 2,000 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, over 8 interceptions. His rating is an 86, which is just below average. So he has not been great this year, especially for a guy who's the highest paid quarterback in the entire league. But now Cooper Rush is going to be their quarterback for the next 4 weeks. He's not a horrible backup. Did go 5-0 a couple of years ago in place of Dak Prescott when he was hurt with the broken hand, the broken finger, or thumb, whatever it was. But, but they also have a much better team. CeeDee Lamb also got nicked up. We don't know his status. The running game isn't nearly the same. Zeke was benched for this game. So Dak Prescott is going to miss, looks like, the next month or so with a hamstring injury. Also, Christian McCaffrey has returned to practice for the San Francisco 49ers. He could play this up this week. That's big for the 49ers. You know, they're still hanging in there. Also, they've had a lot of injuries this year. They've underperformed a lot as well. They're only 4-4, but Christian McCaffrey looks like he's coming back. It's big for fantasy football as well. I was one of the people that drafted him first overall in one of my leagues, and he's been sitting on injured reserve. Thank God for Jordan Mason in that league, because he's been very good. But McCaffrey, he's returning to practice this week, and he could play this Sunday. Obviously, the whole season with a myriad of Achilles injuries, I guess you could say. On to the trades to close this show out. Arizona Cardinals made a smaller move. They get Baron Browning, edge rusher from the Denver Broncos, for a 6th-round pick. This is probably a death move for them. Browning this year hasn't played a whole lot. Last year, he had 4.5 sacks in 10 games. Had 5 sacks in 14 games the year before. He's a solid rotational pass rusher. Only 5 games this year. Had kind of fallen out of favor in Denver. I'm sure now that he goes to the Cardinals, maybe he can get a little more out of him. Arizona's definitely needed a pass rusher. They've kind of needed that all season. There's a reason that they took Darius Robinson at the end of towards the end of the first round in the draft back in April. Pass rush is a major need for them, so they pick up a rotational pass rush piece. But Denver extends another pass rusher in return. They make an extension to Jonathan Cooper, 4 years, $60 million, $33 million guaranteed. Last year had a breakout year, having 8.5 sacks and 72 tackles. He's had another strong year this year, 35 tackles and 5.5 sacks through 9 games this year. He's turned into a very good edge rusher for them, very good player, and the Denver Broncos lock him up long term. Lions make a big move. They get Zadarius Smith from the Cleveland Browns. It's in the 26th, 7th. They get 26th as well. 26th as well. They get give up a 5th and a 6th-round pick. That is a phenomenal move for the Detroit Lions. Of course, unfortunately, lost superstar pass rusher Aiden Hutchinson a few weeks ago to a really bad leg injury. Really tough. But Zadarius Smith is a great player. He has 5 sacks this year for Cleveland Browns. Getting a little bit older. It's now his 10th season in the league. He's probably 31, 32 years old. But he was having a strong year for the Browns. He's had 3 seasons of at least 10 sacks, 4 seasons of at least 8.5 sacks. He's had actually at least 10 sacks in each of the last 3 full seasons he's played. He's a little bit injury prone. 2021 with Green Bay was out most of the year. Last year missed a lot of times. We only finished with 5.5 sacks. But the last 4 full years of he's played, 2018 with Baltimore, he had 8.5 sacks with 45 tackles. He had 13.5 sacks his first year in Green Bay with 55 tackles. 2020 with the Packers, 52 tackles, 12.5 sacks. And 2021 missed most of the year. 2022 with the Vikings, he had 44 tackles and 10 sacks. Last year was hurt a lot, but still had 5.5 sacks. And this year, so far, 5 sacks. A big move for the Lions. It's been a suspected move for a while. He's familiar with the division, having played for the Green Bay Packers from 2019 to 2021. And that's a big move for the Detroit Lions to get an impact pass rusher. That I was big for them. Bengals make a move to get Khalil Herbert, a veteran, back from the Bears, get up a 7th-round pick in the deal. He's a guy, he hasn't gotten a whole lot of work. The Bears have had some pretty crowded backfields as long as he's been there. You know, when he got there, David Montgomery was still there. You know, Roshan Johnson, you draft him. Now you bring in DeAndre Swift for this year. But whenever he's gotten work, he's produced 2022, 731 yards on 5.7 yards a carry. Last year, 611 yards on 4.6 yards a carry. The whole reason he's kind of fallen in the favor is because he's not a big red zone guy. He had 4 touchdowns 2 years ago, only had 2 touchdowns last year. And he's not a great pass catcher. Had only 20 catches 2 years ago, just 9 a year ago. No, excuse me, only 9 catches 2 years ago, just 20 catches a year ago. Has not played a whole lot this year. Has only played 6 games this year. Just 8 carries this year to go along with only 2 catches. So only 10 touches this year in 6 games. He's fallen in favor. He's the clear third back in that back behind DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson. When he's played, he's a productive back. I think he's a solid change of pace back for sure. Maybe not a big red zone guy. Not going to catch a lot of passes. But, you know, if you have a good line, he can get you a bunch of yards in chunks between the tackles. Bengals are missing Zach Moss. Chase Brown just had a big game against the Raiders. The defense is horrible. But they need another back, and they pick one up in Khalil Herbert. That's a pretty solid move. Low risk, pretty high reward there for the Cincinnati Bengals to pick up Khalil Herbert. But Dallas Cowboys trade for Jonathan Mingo, giving up a 4th-round pick. I don't understand this at all. I really don't. Mingo was a 3rd-round pick. Was he a 2nd or 3rd-round pick by Carolina last year? Hadn't shown a whole lot. Had 43 catches last year. Didn't do a whole lot. Obviously, you have very bad offense with Bryce Young running the show over there. But the guy did nothing. Has just 12 catches this year. And you give a 4th-round pick for him. I get it. CeeDee Lamb is out. You know, the only receivers you have is Jamin Tolbert, who isn't anything special, when Brandon Cooks, who's at the end of his career, and your tight end Jake Ferguson, and your run game is non-existent. Zeke is washed. He's not even playing right now. So right now, your running back deal was Rico Dowdle, just okay, and Dalvin Cook, who hasn't been good in 3 years. But also, you're 3-5. Yeah, tough schedule coming up. You're done. You need to sell. Honestly, I was looking to trade Micah Parsons. Someone might give you a 1st-round pick for that guy, and possibly even more. You know, maybe you flip Brandon Cooks. Try and flip, you know, whoever you can at this point. You know, Mike McCarthy is getting fired after the year. You know, you overpay for Dak Prescott. This team is not that good. You know, they're gonna have to retool a bit. You know, obviously you've won, what, 3 or 4 playoff games in the last 25, 30 years. Since 1996. So 28 years, you've won, what, 3, 4 playoff games. This team's not going anywhere. The new changes need to be made. 4th rounder for Jonathan Mingo. To put that in perspective, his teammate Deontay Johnson has been much better than Mingo this year and throughout his career. Went for a 5th rounder for the Baltimore Ravens. DeAndre Hopkins went for less than that. He's a former All-Pro to the Kansas City Chiefs. So I don't understand why Dallas is going to have a 4th-round draft pick for Jonathan Mingo. And oh my goodness, we have a huge trade. I was literally just about to close out the show, and then let me check my phone just in case. The Washington Commanders have acquired 4-time Pro Bowl corner Marshawn Lattimore from the New Orleans Saints. Adam Schefter has confirmed that is a huge move for the Washington Commanders, who have shocked the world this year, sitting at 7-2 this season so far. You know, obviously, Jane Daniels has had a phenomenal rookie year. A lot of those young guys on the offense have stepped up. Their defense has stepped up for the most part, but still need another piece, and they get it. Obviously, Saints are obviously going to Selmo. They're horrible. They've lost 7 already. He's lost to the Panthers 2-7. You're old and just really bad. Marshall Lattimore is one of the best. He's a little bit older now. He's been in the league for a while. Was the first pick in 2017. His 8th year in the league. He's probably like 28, 29, so a little bit older for a corner. Had some injury problems, but he's still a very good cornerback. Definitely a solid starter. Has not played has missed 2 games this year, including this past week, but I'm sure we'll be fine sooner rather than later. I could definitely easily see him playing in week 10. That is a big move for the Washington Commanders. Do not know the compensation right now, but he's a really physical corner. He's good in coverage. That's a big move for the Washington Commanders. That's all I got for you guys today. Go out and vote. Hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.